hear all of our previously aired broadcasts of News for the Soul online at newsforthesoul.com. And let's get back to the show. It's time for Conscious Parenting with Sandra Jones-Keller and family. Welcome back. Let's get you to reintroduce yourself, your show, and what's up for today.
Thank you so much. Hello and happy holidays. My name is Sandra Jones-Keller, and this is the Conscious Parenting Show. And I'm joined today by my husband. My husband's joining me today.
I'm here. Hello.
It's been a minute. We've been enjoying the holidays. So we're broadcasting live on News for the Soul Radio and on my YouTube channel at Sandra Jones-Keller. So for those of you who would like to see us live, head over to my YouTube channel. So maybe you have questions about discipline or bedtime or being an empty nester. Whatever is on your mind, we'll do our very best to answer it from a conscious parenting perspective. And we've been quite surprised by the number of people who have responded to questions about being empty nesters and who are struggling. So if you're one of those, feel free to call in. And I'm really excited about today's topic. And
how do they ask questions?
They can call in to 646-595-4274 or email your questions to ontheair@telus.net.
Emailing works better.
Emailing or calling. We don't care. Just reach out. So I have a kind of interesting topic today, and what prompted me to talk about this is I saw a post on Facebook. Wow, I'm mixing up my words. Anyway, so the topic for today is teenage rebellion a natural cycle in the parent-child relationship? Woohoo! So think about it and call in with your thoughts on that. And so I actually did a poll on my Facebook page asking, are your teenagers cool? Having problems help me. And I was surprised to find that a lot of people are really enjoying their teenagers. So it's not necessarily a natural cycle, but we'll talk more about that. And so what is teenage rebellion and what causes it? So I did a little bit of research on medicine.net. And according to them, rebellion refers to the expression of defiant behavior and disregard for existing rules. Teenage rebellion can be a normal part of growth and development. Now, we've heard a lot about, the teenage brain and all of that stuff. And so, Thomas, you were a teenager.
I was, yes.
And so did you go through a rebellious phase?
No, I did not. I started out rebellious from birth, and I continued rebellious into adulthood. And I don't know that, teenagers were probably more rebellious than any others,
Okay.
But yes.
But yeah. So why do you think you were rebellious?
I tell you why I was rebellious. I grew up in a family I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s in a family that believed in spare the rod, spoil the child, which is just a saying for it's okay to physically beat you, spank you. And I received quite a few of those, and I think it just really didn't change my behavior. I became better at hiding it, I think. Yeah. But what it did, it made me more and more angry internally because, just imagine you're getting beaten.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
What?
I understand. I was spanked as a child. I had to go out. We had a rose bush on the side of the house, so I had to go out and
rose bush.
Rose bush. So I had to go out and pick my own switch. And so I learned that I had to pick the right one because if it was too thin, then my mom would go out, and if it was too thick, it would hurt. So I'd go out and pick the right one, and I'd take the thorns off,
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, so I would take the thorns off. But yeah, it was, very traumatic. And as, like you said, it really just had me get better at hiding behaviors that might incur
And
punishment.
talking and sharing less with your parents, to whoever
Exactly.
was dishing out the punishment.
Exactly.
You know,
So-
my mother would tell my dad it was time to dish out the punishment. So, you know, I kind of blamed it on her because she was always ratting on me.
Oh, nothing to do with your behavior, though, right?
Oh, everything to do with my behavior. But,
Okay.
you know, what can I say?
All right. So, according to medicine.net, so let's talk more about what it is and the causes of it.
Okay. Rebellion. It's part of their brain development. The prefrontal cortex is a part of the human brain that controls decision making, social behavior, and personality expression. During the teen years, the function of this part of the brain gets into practice, which results in testing boundaries, arguing, testing, and finally being able to understand the decision making process.
Okay, and so according to medicine.net, still fighting for independence. We're talking about teenage rebellion and why it happens. Fighting for independence. Another cause of teenage rebellion is the struggle to gain independence. During adolescent years, children start craving more freedom from their parents. Sometimes parents may confuse the need for space for rebellion, and their reactions may lead to teenage rebellion, the exact opposite of what they want.
Right.
What else? What
And
else
the-
causes it?
Well, there's a need for control. Teenagers want to have a considerable say in their lives and take authority over their actions. When parents force decisions, teenagers tend to lash out and defy their parents.
And then also there's the struggle for acceptance. Teenagers are heavily influenced by peers. They want to fit in and may try to imitate the lifestyles of their friends. The pressure of living a lifestyle they admire may lead to rebellion as they stop listening to their parents. They face the pressure of doing what everyone else is doing and may even risk losing their individuality. They may forget their interests as they try to fit into someone else's lifestyle. Talking about teenage rebellion,
It's a whole heap of stuff.
it's a whole heap of stuff, yeah.
How about seeking attention? Teenagers love to get and may go to great lengths to gain attention.
Overworrying parents, communicating your worries to your teens all the time may cause them to pick up a habit of ignoring you when you are speaking to them.
And finally, the hormonal changes. Teenagers go through extensive physical changes during adolescence. It may result in decision making and impulsive behavior.
Okay, so this was according to medicine.net, some of the causes. And so now let's talk about rebellious behavior. So self-defeating and destructive behaviors, neglecting schoolwork or over a long period of time, drinking alcohol and experimenting with drugs, breaking rules and even laws, engaging in physical risk-taking like extreme sports or other dangerous activities. So what did you do?
Wait a minute. This is only an hour-long show. I did it all. I really did do it all. I rebelled in every way possible. I was a very angry young boy, man, and I literally did it all. Cussing, swearing, getting called in. My parents called to the school. I never went to jail, but it's a miracle I didn't in many ways. I really did.
Let's see. Was I a rebellious teenager? It all depends on who you ask.
No,
Because
that's not an answer. I don't.
It is an answer because I know it's interesting because I do remember
I can't wait to hear how you spin this.
No, I do remember like a switch kind of went off where I was maybe, I don't know, 11, 12 or 13 and I was like, nice and loving and, wanted to do stuff with my parents and or my mom anyway. And then it was just like something happened where I became kind of moody and bratty. But see, I say it depends on who you ask because my brother was in and out of trouble so much.
Your brother was older than you.
My brother was
he
4
was
years.
the bad boy.
He was the
and
bad boy.
You were the good girl.
Yes.
I was the third of three boys. So I saw my other two brothers and I came in third. So I thought I knew how to skirt around the things that got them in trouble.
Right.
But I just actually made more trouble for myself.
And well, for me also, though, it was I saw how much pressure my parents were under with my brother. I saw how much pain they were in. and I didn't want to cause more pain for them.
I get it.
My brother was kind of in and out of jail, in and out of trouble. And so I didn't want to cause more pain for them. So in that way, I was not a rebellious teenager. But, I did have, hanging out with my friends, going places I probably was not supposed to go to.
No, probably. Don't question it. Let me ask you this.
What?
We're talking about our teenage years,
yes.
and that was actually a few decades ago.
It was more than a few,
We have a 19-year-old daughter who's just finishing up her teen years presently.
Yes.
So we can also talk about more up to date, because as a conscious parenting show, we know that the energy, just the overall energy in life, has shifted over the years.
Absolutely.
And continues to shift. So
absolutely.
I don't think we had any kind of issues with our daughter that my parents had with me. Nothing.
Well, it was, we had a completely different approach to parenting, though.
Yes, right.
Because I remember, like, one of my greatest frustrations growing up was asking, like, well, why? Like, why? If you're going to tell me no, why? And there was never an answer. It was always because I said so. And that drove me crazy. And so when we became parents and we had a commitment to conscious parenting, which we didn't even really call it at that time. We just had a commitment to seeing and recognizing our daughter as this intelligent spiritual being.
Right.
And communicating with her that way. And so we gave her choices.
Right.
It wasn't
responsibilities from a very early age.
She learned how to self-regulate very early. So we didn't do the helicopter parenting.
No, we did not.
We didn't do a lot of the stuff that I had to deal with growing up. And there's a lot of dysfunction in my home.
Yeah.
So I was trying to manage that. So she didn't have that. The level of dysfunction that I grew up with.
Right.
So she wasn't trying to manage that and overcome and trying to keep it together. She grew up in a peaceful household.
Pretty much. We were already well on our spiritual path.
And we were older parents.
Older parents. We'd been working on ourselves for quite a number of years. And thank God, because she wasn't going to come through until we cleaned up our stuff.
Absolutely.
That's my opinion.
She's always been very clear in what worked and what didn't work for her. And yes and no. So when, we did try to push our agendas and stuff, it was like it didn't go very far because she was very clear. So when you talk about teenage rebellion, especially like this need for control, I see kids just pushing the boundaries and parents holding on, or parents or moms in particular talking about their level of anxiety and how afraid they are, and constantly talking about their anxiety. And then they're surprised when their kid starts talking about how anxious they are.
Right. Because we know as conscious parentings, we know universal law. Mm-hmm. And whatever I'm projecting, whatever I'm expecting, I'm creating.
Absolutely.
And as for my child as well as for myself. So I have an impact on my consciousness. My mind has an impact on what my daughter experiences or has the potential to experience.
Absolutely.
And if I'm scared to death, if I'm worried, if I'm freaking out, she may get pregnant, if all those different types of fears that grow up, people have historically grown up with, if I continue carrying those fears, she is much more likely to have troubles than otherwise.
Yes, because we are creating that space. We're holding, our level of consciousness is reflected. We are live here on News for the Soul Radio.
Live.
Call in to 646-595-4274 or email your questions to ontheair@telus.net. And even if it's not about rebellious teen, if you have a question about being an empty nester or about self-regulation or anything, we will do our very best to answer it from a conscious parenting perspective versus unconscious.
Well, yeah,
which we are. We
did unconscious. We think we did.
And so, by the way, for those of you who are interested in getting more support or who would like to work more closely with me, I'll share with you in a little later what that could actually look like. Okay, so is it a natural cycle, this teenage rebellion and the friction between the parents? Is it natural, do you think?
I don't believe it's natural. I believe it's there's a general consciousness, our individual consciousness, and there's a larger race consciousness.
Mhm.
And we don't have to experience that kind of rebellion. It's not automatic, regardless of what experts say.
Mhm.
The only thing that is automatic is what we actually believe ourselves is automatic because we're out into our physical world.
So it's funny. I recently did a speech in our Toastmasters group.
Right.
3 things to do for yourself before your teen leaves the nest. And one of the guys said, I wish my wife had heard that before our teen left.
Heard that speech?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it wouldn't have done any good anyway because we were total helicopter parents.
Yes, that's right. That's
so
right.
he owned up to be a helicopter parent. So what happens when you're being a helicopter? You're hovering. You're not trusting your kids. You're not giving them tools to actually function in the world.
You're doing it for them.
You're doing it for them
The way you think is best.
the way you think is best.
So they do not get experience, and without experience, one cannot learn and grow.
And so when you start talking about the need for control, if I'm a parent trying to control every aspect of my child's life, then yes, it would be a natural consequence for your kids to start rebelling.
Absolutely.
Simply to try to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
As adults, we don't like being controlled. And why would they?
Of course not.
And so if you're being controlling, if you're not, you want to teach your kids how to learn to listen and trust their own intuition, how to make decisions, how to self-regulate, because that's what's going to serve them in the world. You're not going to be there with them when they go off to school.
No, that's right. There used to be a TV show called Father Knows Best.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that is simply not true. Father has more years and therefore more experience, but that doesn't mean that Father knows any more, because the children's coming in today and for the last 20, 30, 40 years are more advanced consciously than I was when I grew up in the late 50s and early 60s. And therefore, if I think Father knows best and I'm the dad, then all I can do is project the way I grew up toward my child. And that's completely inappropriate because my child is a whole different person with a different consciousness.
So I was just thinking about something recently. So our daughter is in college.
She is.
And she's going to be getting a part-time job next semester. And so she loves to sew and design costumes. So the costume teacher asked her if she wanted to work in the costume department. And, we got all excited. And then she had already inquired about working in catering.
Right.
And I thought about this because from our perspective, it's like, oh, come on, work in the costume because you're interested in that. That could take you farther, whatever we were making up. Because even before she was offered a job, we had even asked, oh, why don't you inquire to see if they have any work? And so what I saw, though, was I need to trust her because it looks like, and she may be able to do both. It's not necessarily an either or, but I need to trust her because it looks like the costume is the best thing based on our linear perspective, based on old energy of how you do this, you do this, you do this. And the catering seems like it's completely unrelated to anything that she's interested in, but yet she's interested in it. And so I was thinking that for myself, just back off.
Yes.
Back off. Trust. Oh, you were right there with me. Trust that she knows she's following, and she's always been good at this. Like, she follows her excitement and her interests, which is what we've cultivated, and what we're cultivating in ourselves. And it's always worked out really well for her. So I need to trust that this is working out perfectly too, and just back off.
I have a take on that whole
Okay.
episode.
Okay. What?
I thought about that same thing too. And she goes to a liberal arts school, a really good liberal arts school. One of the first things the teachers or the deans announced during the parent auditorium sit is, parents, back off your kids. This is a liberal arts school. Let them explore, let them experience, let them try different things. Well, parents embrace the same idea. Why was I thinking my daughter should take a part-time job in the costume department when she's already good at that? Maybe she wants to experiment with other areas of her life and see what else she might be attracted to.
Yes, I agree. But I caught myself. It's like, okay, she can get a job here,
right?
And she can get a really cool internship.
Oh,
and then that can lead to this, or maybe it can lead to that, or it can lead to that.
Yeah, you had her life planned out.
Well, in my head, I did start kind of going down that road, but because I'm committed to conscious parenting, I stopped myself, and I said, we have cultivated in her a level of trust.
Absolutely.
We had never even heard of the school that she's attending, and it's the perfect school for her. But had it been up to us, she probably would have been at a school that we had heard of, or had something. But she's found the perfect school for her, and so it's about getting away from appearances. Like, oh my gosh, that looks like it's the perfect thing, and stepping into, she's excited about both. Actually, she seems more excited about the catering. So back off and trust that if that's what she's excited about, that's the perfect.
Let her experience her life.
Yes.
And trust her.
Absolutely.
That whatever choice she's picked, that college, and it is working out beautifully for her.
Well, and that is the benefit of conscious parenting, because when I'm working with parents, like, one of my dictates is create a partnership, not a dictatorship. And so you can do that from the very beginning. We did that from the very beginning, of even before she could talk. It was, like, when I was feeding her, I would ask her, do you want carrots or do you want yams? And I would just listen intuitively. And so just creating a partnership for her upbringing, so that she's always in on her life. You're holding up something.
I am not. I just want to tell our fine folks out there that they can email their questions into us at on the air at tellus.net, NTHEAIR@TELUS.net, or you can call in to 646-595-4274.
So we are on the air live, ready to answer your conscious parenting questions. And so also, in my masterclass, I talk about letting go of control as one of the tools to immediately stop the power struggles and transform your child's behavior. Let go of the control. It's like, like you said, I mean, Father knows best, but that was, decades ago. And we want our kids to be in touch with their own intuition, with their own awareness, and to develop life skills to take care of themselves. I remember the women's volleyball coach from my college alma mater was complaining that the kids entering college lack basic life skills. Okay, we have some questions.
Of the smallest text in the world. If you can see that, you can read it.
Let's see if I can read this. Heather in Minnesota, you mentioned empty nesting. The holiday season brings us up for me big time every year, even though it's been several years since my nest became empty. Nothing ever seems as special and good compared to those wonderful years when the kids were growing and our family was all together. How do we, or do we ever get beyond that feeling moving forward?
I have a take on this.
Thank you, Heather in Minnesota. Yes, what is your take, Thomas?
We just went through our first holidays.
Yeah, but she's home though, so go ahead.
I have a take on this. We just went through our first holidays, and our daughter did not come back for Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's true.
she's back now for Christmas, but she did not come back for Thanksgiving or Halloween. She's 1,000 miles away.
It was Thanksgiving.
Yes. Yes. So anyhow, I got just a taste of what you are talking about, because for the Thanksgiving thing, I caught myself in my thinking, starting to feel sad, starting to go into what will we do? Our daughter's not coming home, bemoaning that. And after a little while, I kicked myself out of it and said, all right, she is going. She's loving where she's going. She's going to be there. I need to create a new life, my next phase of life for myself and my wife if she wants to participate. And so I chose to do something completely different Thanksgiving. I don't even remember what it was, but I made a conscious choice that I wasn't going to stay and bemoan my daughter's not being there, because it just doesn't make sense when you have to look at each phase of our life as unfolding, and we want to be the best expression of ourselves in each of those phases of life, whatever that means.
Sorry, I'm over here choking. Go ahead.
Yes, you're over here. Take a drink of water.
I did. Go ahead.
Now she's here for Christmas, and it's great, but honestly, she misses her friends that she just made. She misses the
stuff to do.
So many things going on, because we live in an area that has less things going on, particularly for younger people. So I get it, and I want her to be happy and fulfilled, and I want myself and my wife to be happy and fulfilled. And we were very clear when we came together for this marriage in the beginning that it was important to have our life together, and our own lives, and then our daughter's life, all at the same time, because each one needs nourishing, and each one is important for us to feel like we're fulfilling our life purpose.
And so, just circle that up for Heather, because I can't talk yet.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's like,
the only circle up is, this is your children going away was of course meant to be, and you probably saw it coming. And our child going away was what we wanted for her. We wanted her to expand and become an adult that she wants to become. And so as she's becoming her own adult, I have a whole new phase of my life now. And if I sit back here as when I was living life as when I was a parent of a young child, I'm not present in the moment anymore. I've taken myself out of my own life purpose. Okay. And I don't want you to do that. I know your life has a purpose. Otherwise you wouldn't still be here.
Okay, I think I can talk now. Thank you. Well, I know we'll see. Thank you, Heather, for that question, because we've been getting it a lot. And I look at my life as, different phases. So I had the phase before being married to Thomas. I had the phase of raising our daughter. And now I have a phase of, I can do what the hell I want because I've raised, my daughter. And so I miss her.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
What's most exciting, so when I start missing her, what I think about is her living her best life. Her calling and sharing, and there's friends in the background, and there's activities, and she's on her way to dinner with friends, or they're on their way to some event on campus. And so that's what we want as parents. We want our kids to flourish. We want them to fly. And so when I start really missing her, that gives me comfort. Also, a couple of years before I knew that she was leaving, because I homeschooled. So that means we spent a lot of time together. My social life, everything was wrapped up into homeschooling. So that was a big adjustment that I knew was coming. So I have found just things that I enjoy doing. I've upped my exercise game because I love exercising. I love having the time to exercise. We go biking and hiking and walking, and we just went to a live performance, so we love going to plays and events. So
I think you're leaving out the most critical part of your own life.
what's that?
You've actually started a new business which you are fully studying and involved
I
in.
am. So I have more time for my business. But I say all that to say is we are not meant to sit around being depressed because our kids leave. It's a phase of life. And Heather, you have a purpose that goes beyond being a mom. And it sounds like it's time for you to find that purpose so that you can be a fully individualized being that's happy and fulfilled. And then you still get to enjoy your kids when they're here. But you don't want to spend, these are critical years. We are not getting any younger. And you don't want to spend this time not living your life fully because you don't get it back. So I encourage you, I invite you to just step by step follow your excitement. That's like our big thing. It's like follow your excitement.
We tell her it doesn't have to. You don't have to find a big purpose
Right.
immediately. This is where you follow your excitement.
This is where you felt like each day I get up and I say, what is most exciting for me to do today? As he said, I am in a business training program, which I absolutely love because I'm expanding in more ways than I thought. But it's like, but moment to moment, it's like, what is most exciting for me? Is it working on my business? Is it going for a walk? Is it meeting him for lunch?
Is it taking a nap?
Is it taking a nap? So moment by moment, if you follow your excitement, that naturally raises your frequency so that more and more things that light you up will come into your life.
Absolutely.
Like and Thomas said, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It may be even taking a nap. It may be having a cup of tea. It may be calling a friend and talking or meeting for lunch. But those little incremental steps will exponentially expand your life.
One of the things that we did was before our daughter left, we joined Toastmasters, a public speaking club, because my wife wanted to get better at public speaking. And that's just a little thing. That's, very little commitment. But it caused me to discover a part of myself that I am thrilled with, that I really had no idea would be so excited about, and that's public speaking.
And you've done more speeches than I have.
Yes, and it's giving you what you asked for from it.
I love it.
Yeah, so that's just a little club. There's hundreds of them all across the country.
Yeah, thank you, Heather, for your question. Susan in New York. Do you want me to read it? Can you read it?
I can't read that.
Okay. My question is about how to foster gratitude and compassion in our younger children, especially at Christmas time when they are focused on getting stuff for Christmas instead of Christmas spirit, generosity, and kindness to others. Telling them doesn't seem to be enough.
Mirroring.
Yeah. Well, you can. Let me just say my little bit. So it starts with mirroring, and Thomas is going to talk more about that. But you model the behavior that you want your kids to follow. So now you can talk more about mirroring.
Okay, and you have to be authentic.
Yeah.
You can't just model the behavior. You have to embrace the feeling and actually be.
Yeah, instead of hoping you get that diamond ring and the thing and then try.
So the thing of mirroring is it's the core spiritual principles of ours that has lasted over 25 years since we first learned it. It changes the whole game in life. everyone in our individual worlds, our little sphere, our children, our spouse, our best friends, are all mirrors of our consciousness. They are all reflections of what we have in our consciousness. And much of that thing, much of what we're being reflected, we love. Much of it is we're indifferent to. It's okay. And then the few things that they show us that we don't like are the key things in our life to use and transform to free us from the very thing. So let's say it's Christmas time and my child is not really grateful for what they're getting or the gifts. And what they're showing me disturbs me. Ooh, I don't like that. That child is showing you a part of your own consciousness that still is ungrateful for what's going on in life. And as long, and let's just talk about the way to transform it very quickly. The way to transform it is always in yourself, is to embrace it and say, okay, I see what you're doing. I'm disturbed by it. I'm going to own that. I'm not very grateful. And then forgive yourself.
Okay, let's give an example. And you just had,
of course, go ahead.
You just had a perfect one about the guy crowding you.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So tell them. So we're going to give you, Susan, we're going to give you an example of how mirroring shows up and how it works.
Real practical. Strangers can even be the best mirrors for you, as in this example. I'm sitting in my gym on the phone on a flat surface where I can bend my knees or stretch them out. And
in the corner somewhere.
Yeah, way off in the corner. Nobody around. And so I have my knees bent in the moment. It's by the racquetball courts, nobody around. I finish up my call and this guy comes up. Nobody around, and he comes up and he puts his 2 gym bags right at my feet on this only small area where I can no longer stretch out my legs, and there's no reason for him to be there because there's plenty of places to put your bags going down the hallway in front of all the racquetball courts. So I noticed I'm very disturbed by this. Why are you putting your stuff right on top of me? And then we get into a very heated verbal round, and he will not leave. And finally, I get up and walk off because I realize how disturbed I am. And then when I drive home, I tell my wife, Sandra, about it. And I tell her, Sandra, where am I crowding you in life? Because that's all he was showing me is where I'm just going to crowd this guy who's off by himself. And
I started laughing because it was so funny.
Yeah, it was obvious to her, and she pointed it out to me, and then I owned it. All right, I'm crowding her when I do this.
Okay, let's just give them. So for years, I have been complaining, like when I'm making dinner, and like toward the end, especially like, when you've got 3 things you're trying to do. So we have a small kitchen, so I'm moving around. So I've been complaining for years that he will be home all day, has no need for the kitchen. As soon as I get in the kitchen, all of a sudden there's something he needs to do. Like he's crowding me. And not only that, but he'll like stand in the way. So I'm turning and he's like right there, not doing anything, like crowding me. So I thought it was quite funny because I've been complaining about that for years.
But have I done it anymore since that episode?
You have not.
I learned it. I forgave myself. I didn't recognize it consciously what I was doing until this other guy crowded me. And I come home and ask her, where am I crowding you? Then I got it. And then I forgave myself for it. And Sandra will tell you the whole Opono process of forgiveness that we often use for this very thing, because your child is showing you that you are ungrateful, and it's undeniable.
And you're lacking compassion.
Yeah.
And so, Susan, we just gave you that example because this is something we've been talking about for years, and he was unable or unwilling to see it until it was right in his face. And so he mentioned Ho'oponopono. So all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. So Ho'oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian forgiveness process. Very simple, 4 simple steps. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. So whenever anything happens that disturbs me, I immediately start doing my Ho'opono work, because all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. So you can just look up Ho'oponopono online. It has transformed situations beyond belief, because once I release whatever energy that is creating the situation in my life, then I can have more peace and joy. So thank you,
Yes.
Susan in New York.
You cannot be ungrateful for your child being ungrateful and get to gratitude. Either one of you.
Okay, we have Lou in Boston.
Lou.
Our kids have it really good compared to how we grew up in our generation, but they just don't seem to get it. We especially see this in the holiday season. We are concerned that they take so much for granted. Any advice you have would be great. So, Lou, it's just the same thing we just talked about with Susan. It starts with us. It starts with us being grateful. It starts with us valuing what we have. And also, I think holding our kids responsible, like creating an environment where they're contributing in some way, they are participating, and not just, giving them everything that they want. Making them maybe pay part of it, but contributing in a way so that they have more value for what they have. I mean, I know that, growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, and I saved my allowance. I helped my dad do part-time jobs and gigs and stuff. I would keep score at the bowling alley. This was way back then, to earn extra money. And, I paid for half of my car. Now, granted, my dad was a mechanic, and my first car cost $500. But as a 16-year-old, I saved my $250 because that was our agreement, and I paid for half of my car. And I loved that car, and I valued that car because my blood, sweat, and tears were in that car.
Mm-hmm.
So anything you want to add to Lou in
Yes,
Boston?
Lou, I say this. Sometimes this is hard to do, but your children don't really care how you grew up, and don't, as long as you're comparing how you grew up to how it is now for them, that's going to make you unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And your children have no perspective on what you're even talking about. They never experienced that. So become present as best possible to now, because this is what you're creating for your kids now on their Christmases. And that's it. I mean, we all fall back into those comparisons and stuff. So it's not like you're the only one doing it, but as best you can, try not to.
Absolutely. And, just like we told Susan, forgiveness work is a very powerful tool. So maybe you've been too generous, or really trying to make sure your kids didn't suffer or have some of the hardships that you had. And so maybe you've kind of gone overboard. And so I just invite you to maybe look at that. And if so, forgive yourself and just reel it back and have them start participating and contributing more. And, Christmas is really not about the stuff. It's about family and giving and love. And, so bring more of that.
It was about that nice jacket you got.
And, and less stuff. Thank you, Lou in Boston. Okay, what?
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say.
Thank you, Lou in Boston, because we still have 2 more questions.
Yes, let's go.
Andrea in New Zealand.
Yes.
I'm wondering what the conscious parenting approach would be for reconnecting with a daughter who has chosen to be estranged for the last several years. We don't even really know why. Ooh, what can we do? That's interesting.
I can speak a little to that. I
Go
was
for it.
estranged. I estranged myself from my parents for 12 years. And I think the advice that they got from whoever was their minister at the time was probably really good advice, which was just to be open, respond to your daughter if she's inviting you or inquiring to you, and try just to take it as little as you can and not expect anything, and You know, because I don't know about your daughter, but I, as a child, when I began to reconnect after 12 years, I did not even have words for why this impulse was in me trying to reconnect or what I was looking for from them or any of that. I just felt this desire. And so I don't know if she's feeling the same thing or something similar, but there is a condition. They're not the only people who have done this. And so try to just accept whatever they can give to you and just do the best you can with an open heart.
And so, Andrea, from a conscious parenting perspective, we've talked a lot about mirroring and forgiveness. And so you may not know why, but you know what you're feeling. And so if you were to start doing your forgiveness work on her leaving, on you feeling abandoned, or you feeling frustrated or confused, to start creating a space in yourself for something else to show up. And I also invite you to really just connect with your intuition and your higher self and her higher self to ask why. Because you can actually start getting an answer about that. And then you continue to do your forgiveness work. And it may be something that she communicated over a period of time and no one listened. You know, it could be a number of different things, but really start tuning in to the pain that you're experiencing from not having your daughter in your life. Do your forgiveness work. Start clearing all of the pain and the baggage and the ugliness and all of that so that you can actually be a clean slate. Because if she does come back and you start questioning and making her wrong, she's going to turn right around and go the opposite way. So you want to get in a place where you can just love her and allow her the freedom to reconnect. And I also think that once you start doing your forgiveness work and getting clarity, that will also create an opening, and maybe you'll want to reach out. Maybe you'll have some clarity. And even like when my daughter was younger and things would happen and she would be mad at me and I didn't know why, I would take time and I would journal about it. I would listen to my intuition. I would ask for guidance. And every time the answer dropped in. And then I would do my forgiveness work and then I would approach my daughter. So you can get to the answer from a conscious perspective, and then start forgiving. Forgiveness is key, and all forgiveness is self-forgiveness.
And I just say, whatever she can give at this moment, just accept that and try not to ask for more at the moment. And as my wife says, you know, be open and be as clean in your heart as you can. And who knows what her life path had for her when she came into this lifetime. Yeah. It's not all understandable all the time.
And what lesson, you know, you wanted to learn from this also. And Andrea, whatever guilt that you had. You know, Thomas mentioned that he had kind of gone away for 12 years. And so we talked about that in terms of him forgiving his self and me forgiving things that happened when I was a child so that we did not recreate that with our daughter. Mm-hmm. That guilt is so powerful. You know, so we're so afraid and we're so guilty. Even if we never say anything, we're still holding the energy. Remember, everything is energy and everything is vibration. Mm-hmm. So if I'm terrified that my daughter is going to leave me because I left my family or I did something, then I'm putting that in the space. So we were very clear on cleaning up our own stuff so that our daughter could be free.
That's why all forgiveness is self-forgiveness, because to carry the guilt of things I may have done wrong is not letting myself off the hook and not forgiving myself, and that energy will just try to retreat. What's the word? Will try to recreate itself over and over again until I forgive it in myself.
Yeah. Okay. Catherine, thank you. Andrea in New Zealand.
New Zealand, yes.
Catherine in the UK. As I watch my child raising her own children, I find it difficult to distance myself from parenting decisions I see her making that I don't agree with. Biting my tongue only goes so far. I'm truly concerned about long-term effects on the grandchildren. How would you approach something like this? We're getting a lot of mirroring today.
Yeah, it is. It's mirror day.
Catherine, whatever you're seeing that disturbs you, forgive it.
because it's in you. Mm-hmm. That's why you want to forgive it. And then they'll be free it'll either disappear from your sight and perspective, or they'll be free of it themselves. But everybody will end up free from it if you forgive yourself for what they're showing you that you do not like.
Yeah, and there were things that I did as a parent that were completely opposite from my mom, and I'm sure she thought I was very wrong. We let Mecca self-regulate her bedtime. We created a structure so that she was going to bed later than most children.
1 a.m. 1 a.m. At what, 3?
At 4. Oh. My mother was appalled by that, but it was done consciously, so we had an agreement and we had structure. So looking from the outside, a lot of things may appear wrong. But when you're doing it, when you're working it out, so I knew in my heart that was the right decision for our daughter and our family. And so as a grandparent, I know that my mom thought she knew what was best. Mm-hmm. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt that, do your forgiveness work. And then once you don't have a charge on it anymore, you can actually have a conversation with your daughter if it's something that you really feel could be detrimental to the children's well-being.
Yeah.
But you want to come from a place of neutrality, where you're observing something and then you're talking about it. Because the minute you start making your daughter wrong, she's just going to shut down and not have anything else to say to you about it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Catherine in New York. So I mentioned earlier, for those of you that would like more support, I invite you to contact me and schedule a conscious connection call. Because what's possible when you work with a coach is you see how we're answering the questions, but what's possible when you have someone rooting for you, when you have someone that's an observer that can stand outside, then you feel supported. Every great athlete, every great business person has a coach, but parents, we usually think that they can do it on their own. And so what I find is that by working one-on-one with people, their results are exponential, because we're really going in and we're targeting. We work on mirroring, we work on projection, we work on forgiveness. And these are the things that are going to elevate your parenting to the next level. Mm-hmm. And so during the session, we'll assess your biggest challenge and we'll lay out a mini plan. And if it's a fit to do more work, I'm committed to helping you create more joy and peace and less power struggles and drama in your home. Visit my website, sandrajoneskeller.com. Go to my Work With Me page, and you can book a conscious connection call. It's completely free. Let's see. Oh, we have more.
Oh, what do we have?
Okay. We have 3 minutes to the top.
What do you want to say in the final 3 minutes?
I want to say I love how there's usually a theme to our calls.
Right.
For a couple months, it was empty nesting, and today it's really been mirroring and forgiveness.
Yes.
And that tool is so powerful. And we use it for our relationship. It saved our marriage.
Yes, it did.
And we use it all the time. I use it in parenting. And so with conscious parenting is not about doing it perfect, not about not making mistakes. It's about really just recommitting and realigning. It's like, okay, whoops, I see I did this over here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me do my forgiveness work and let me just redirect my energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so conscious parenting is not about trying to shape your child's behavior to fit your needs. It's about recognizing your child as a conscious, intelligent being with their own life purpose that is separate from yours. And you are here to be a wayshower, to be a guide, to be a partner as they navigate this world, finding their own life purpose.
And they are going to reflect all of your consciousness, the good, the bad, and,
And
the
the
ugly.
And the
Because
ugly.
they don't censor in those early years. They're just expressing.
So they don't censor in the early years, and then in the teenage years,
They
they
over-censor.
they get that, that rebellion, which we talked about,
or shut down.
or they shut down because they're tired of fighting, they're tired of not having any say in their own lives, and so that can be corrected. Can you show my books right quick?
I can't.
So for those of you on YouTube, Thomas is showing my books. 21 Lessons to Empower the New Age Kid. This is a series of 21 lessons designed to be conversations to provide clarity, self-regulation, and agency to your kid's life. Tips and Trips of Parenting a New Age Kid is a series of essays and stories about how we raised our amazing daughter. And it's got a lot of dialogue. It's got original illustrations that were done by my husband. It's got pictures. And so it's a book that can grow with you over the years. And it's fun. We talked about a lot about self-regulation, about eating, about tantrums.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a how-to book. It's just we're just sharing our approach and offering an alternative to you.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great.
So that's what I have to say. So
both those books, Sandra Jones-Keller at Amazon.com for the books.
Yeah. So we come to the end of our show. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Thomas, for being my partner.
It's been my pleasure, Sandra Jones-Keller.
So the Conscious Parenting Show is live the second Friday of each month. So we are off schedule right now due to technical difficulties.
We're on the 4th.
We're live the second Friday of each month at 6 p.m. here on News for the Soul Radio. Please visit the News for the Soul archives for more enlightening shows and tell all your friends. And as Thomas said, my books are available on Amazon. Thank you and happy parenting.